Gargoyle Dark Ages is here, and I am so hyped. What's up everyone, James here. Make sure you hit that like button. So I've been secretly working on this video for a long time. Now if you're thinking to yourself, but James, what is Gargoyles? Don't worry, I'll explain it right now. If you want to skip this part of the video and get to the story, feel free to use the timestamps below. Okay, so Gargoyles Dark Ages is based on and is the prequel to one of the greatest animated series of the 90s. Disney's best and darkest animated series they have ever created, simply named Gargoyles. I grew up with this show, which was ahead of its time, and it has one of the greatest openings of all time. Man, that just gives me chills every single time. Gargoyles was created by WEISMAN. It's a series focusing on a clan of living gargoyles who are stone by day and warriors by night. They lived in 10th century medieval Scotland and were protectors of Wyvern Castle and its human inhabitants. They ended up being betrayed by the humans they swore to protect. Most of their clan was massacred, and those that survived were put under a magic spell by a mage. A spell that would forever encase them in their stone forms until Castle Wyvern, quote, rises above the clouds. 1,000 years had passed, and in 1994, Castle Wyvern was relocated to the top of New York's tallest skyscraper, the Eyrie Building in Manhattan, owned by billionaire David Xanatos. Now, Xanatos is a genius and a member of the Illuminati. Yeah, you heard that correctly. WEISMAN has stated his creation was inspired by Batman, but I consider him a perfect mixture of Lex Luthor, specifically the Superman animated series version, and the MCU's Iron Man. He is a long-standing villain of the Gargoyles, but will work with them should the circumstances require it. He purchased Wyvern Castle, transported it brick by brick, and reconstructed it. With the castle having risen above the clouds, he successfully awakened the Gargoyles. The leader of the Gargoyles is Goliath, voiced by one of the GOATs in the voice acting world, Keith David. The other Gargoyles consist of Goliath's mentor and former leader of the clan, Hudson, voiced by another GOAT in the voice acting world, Ed Asner. Goliath's second in command is Brooklyn. The tech guy of the group is Lexington. The detective, movie buff, and food enjoyer is Broadway. And kind of the pet of the clan is Bronx. If these names sound familiar, it's because the clan, after being awakened, took names from nearby streets and places in New York. The reason why is because gargoyles don't identify themselves with names, only titles really. When it comes to Goliath, his name was given to him by the humans of Wyvern Castle. The human ally of the Gargoyles, and kind of a love interest to Goliath, is Manhattan detective Elisa Maza. However, make no mistake, she is no damsel in distress. She can hold her own in a fight. Another long-standing villain of the series, really the main villain in my opinion, and a lot more evil than Xanatos, is Goliath's former second-in-command and former lover, the Gargoyle Demona. WEISMAN stated she was inspired by Magneto. She seeks the end of humankind because she has experienced the worst of humanity. That's pretty much the starting point of the Gargoyle series. This series, Dark Ages, in particular, was one of the many spin-off shows that WEISMAN proposed. It just never got picked up. This series serves as a prequel to the Gargoyle show. It delves into the Gargoyles clan's early history, so this is a good jumping on point if you've never watched the show. This will tell the origin of how the Gargoyles came to be Castle Wyvern's protectors, and how their origin connects to a dragon. I should mention there is another Gargoyles comic series currently running that continues where the animated series left off in season 2. I really wanted to cover it, but didn't because I thought it would be hard for people who haven't watched the show and don't know the established history to get into it. But let me know if I should still cover it anyways and just fill in the blanks. Now with all that out of the way, let's dive into this story. So the story opens in 971 with a young Hudson, who leads the Gargoyles of the Wyvern clan at this point. As I mentioned earlier, Gargoyles aren't born with names. So you'll notice as we go through the issue that no gargoyles refer to each other or introduce themselves by a name. I'll be naming them with names that are used to just identify them. Hudson notices a pair of humans approaching their territory. the Gargoyle Codestone meets these humans. He appears on the Gargoyle show as an android, and it's pretty cool. He leads these humans to the clan, and I absolutely love this image of the entire clan here. It's incredible. Now, one of the humans is named Robert. He will become Wyvern Castle's future captain of the guard, and be the one who tragically betrays the Gargoyles. It's not much of a spoiler, it literally happens in like the first episode if I remember correctly. Hudson is already aware of him because he comes from a village with an established history and respect for the Gargoyles. He introduces Hudson to his best friend, Prince Malcolm, who will be the future Lord of Wyvern Castle. Malcolm has come to meet with the Gargoyles on behalf of his older half-brother, Kenneth. They've come for the Gargoyles' help in defeating this tyrant named King Cullen, who stole the throne while their father, the former King of Scotland, lay dying and assassinated their older brother, King Duff, who was the rightful king. Now, overhearing this conversation are the kid versions of Lexington, Brooklyn, and Broadway. The young female gargoyle with them isn't in the show, but later in the story she gets named Antiope by Robert's young daughter, Allison, who we'll meet later. Hudson makes it clear to Robert and Prince Malcolm that he doesn't entirely trust humans. Robert responds by saying not to trust them, but to trust his village's history of always viewing the gargoyles as protectors, and never violating their statues during the day. Prince Malcolm swears to Hudson if the gargoyles join them, he and his men will swear to protect his clan during the day. Hudson sends them off so the clan can discuss their offer. During the clan meeting, Hudson explains that he is reluctant to help because he views this as nothing but human problems. His mate, Verity, whom we are meeting for the first time, argues that for now it is, but eventually those human problems will eventually become theirs. The other gargoyle here, Lefty, who is Damona's older brother and Hudson's second in command, who we are also meeting for the first time, he's called Lefty because he only has his left arm. He mentions that if they do help, there will be casualties on their side. After the clan's meeting, Hudson decides to officially form an alliance with Prince Malcolm. Later, as Hudson and Verity watch over the clan's eggs in the rookery. Now, for those of you who don't know, a rookery is a protected area where gargoyle clans leave their eggs until they hatch. Also, gargoyles often use the term broadly, referring to their entire home. Hudson admits that he is worried he made the wrong decision, and might have doomed their clan. But Verity tells him that everything is connected. They can't separate their fate from humans' fate. He made his decision. Worrying and regretting won't change what will come. All they can do is make sure they win. Sometime later, Hudson informs the younger generation of gargoyles that they won't be included in the battle to come, and that their job will be to protect the rookery. The gargoyle who speaks out against this is another newcomer. It is Damona's sister, Hippolyta. Goliath also speaks out, but he makes it clear that he doesn't disagree with his decision, but does wonder why aren't the young warriors like him aren't being used for the battle to come. And Hudson gives him a lesson on what it means to be a leader. He answers he would rather have strong, young warriors ready to protect their home should things go badly for him and the older generation of gargoyles. The next day, Kenneth and Malcolm are on the battlefield with their army. They discuss Hudson's plan, which is for them to hold off King Cullen's forces until their trump card comes into play. And we'll see what that is in a bit. King Cullen's forces arrive. The two armies charge toward each other, and the battle begins. It's total mayhem on the battlefield. It's a clash of swords, shields, spears, and maces. The sun is setting as the battle rages. Malcolm ends up being knocked off his horse. On a cliff above the battlefield, Robert yells at the gargoyles to wake up. Moments later, the gargoyles awaken. A whole army of gargoyles is unleashed, flying toward the battlefield. Technically, according to the show, gargoyles don't fly, but glide using the wind currents. Comes across as flying to me. Hudson yells, "Gargoyles to battle!" Prince Malcolm and Kenneth's trump card is not only the gargoyles, but also Robert, who charges onto the battlefield with cavalry. Not wanting to sit and watch the battle, Hippolyta charges toward the battlefield, going against Hudson's orders, and Damona joins her. Meanwhile, the gargoyles are taking out Cullen's men left and right on the battlefield. King Cullen responds by unleashing his mage, Lord Valois, who uses his magic spear to bend the water and create these giant hands that encase a group of gargoyles, drowning them. However, Prince Kenneth and Malcolm have their own mage, the Archmage. Now, the Archmage will become a villain the gargoyles will have to face in the future. He has evil machinations of his own, but for now, in this story, he is an ally using the Grimorum Arcanorum, a magic spellbook. He yells, Fominis Venite, calling down the lightning to strike Lord Valois, destroying his spear and freeing the gargoyles in the process. We then see Demona and her sister battling Cullen's soldiers. When one of Cullen's soldiers almost gets the drop on Hippolyta, Verity stops him. Unfortunately, another of Cullen's soldiers gets the drop on her and stabs her right in the back. Hudson roars no and charges toward her. While holding her body, he begins to mourn the loss of his true love. This same soldier tries to strike Hudson from behind, and Demona warns him, but he is already ready for him. He catches this soldier's arm mid-swing and breaks his arm, and we don't see it, but make no mistake, Hudson ends his life. Afterward, he roars to all the gargoyles to advance. They regroup and charge the battlefield in their rage mode. As Cullen's forces are being overwhelmed, one of his men reports to him that their forces are outnumbered. King Cullen orders to sound the retreat, but in order for him to safely retreat off the beach, he charges the battlefield and gets the drop on Demona, knocking her out from behind, taking her hostage, and threatening to take her life if any of the gargoyles try to stop him. Goliath, seeing this from the cliff above, absolutely loses it. He drops onto the battlefield, crushing the ground beneath his feet. He is in full-on rage mode, roaring at Cullen to unhand her. Now, what I'm referring to when I say rage mode is the gargoyles, like Wolverine, who has a berserker rage, have a rage of their own where once they're in it, they're capable of great feats of strength and speed. Hudson literally has to hold Goliath back with all of his strength. Cullen tries to make a deal with Hudson that if he and his men are allowed to depart safely off the beach, no harm will come to Demona. But Kenneth intervenes and refuses the offer. Even the Archmage is pushing to sacrifice Demona in order to end King Cullen now. However, Hudson reminds Kenneth of his oath to protect the gargoyles. He assures everyone he's got this to put their trust in him. At that moment, Hudson signals Lefty. Prince Malcolm also reminds Kenneth he made an oath to the gargoyles. Kenneth reluctantly agrees to allow Cullen and his men safe passage off the beach. As King Cullen and his men are about to depart, Hudson says, "Make certain she stays safe, human, or else no power in this world will save you from me and mine." After Cullen leaves, Kenneth says, "I cannot believe we let them go." And Goliath says, "I cannot believe we let her go." Hudson replies to both of them, saying, "We let no one go. I told you all to trust me. By this time tomorrow night, I will bring this conflict to an end. So swear I." What Hudson is saying is the truth, because he had Lefty secretly follow Cullen and his men. Lefty awakens at Cullen's keep the next night and leaves to report to Hudson where Cullen and his forces are. The gargoyles eventually reach the keep. Hudson has the Archmage start a fire in the keep by bringing down the lightning. He calls multiple lightning strikes on the keep. Before Hudson and Goliath strike, Hippolyta demands to go with them, but Hudson points out to her, rightfully so, that her disobedience caused this whole situation. That immediately shuts her up. Now, Kenneth points out why he is not bringing the full weight of the gargoyles on the keep, and even Lefty agrees. However, Hudson makes it clear he and Goliath are more than enough. As Cullen and his men are dealing with the fire, Goliath and Hudson invade the keep. Hudson confronts Cullen and says, "I warned you not to take my daughter." Cullen freaks out, telling Hudson to stay back. We don't see it, but Hudson kills Cullen right on the spot. At the same time, Goliath takes out the last of Cullen's soldiers and finds Demona. Initially, Demona urges him to leave her because she believes there isn't enough time to free her since the fire has spread and she's heavily chained. This is where we get more of a glimpse of what a gargoyle in rage mode is capable of. Goliath rips the chains from the root, freeing Demona from her restraints. They leave the keep and meet with King Kenneth. Hudson brings him Cullen's son, telling him that his son is innocent of Cullen's crimes, and Kenneth agrees. As you can imagine, this will cause problems in the future. Since Cullen was King of Scotland technically, that means his son does have a claim. One thing I want to point out here is that as Cullen's keep is burning, Robert mentions how that's a horrible way to die. But Goliath says that a man within has not perished by flame. This is a perfect example of how powerful and vicious gargoyles can be when fully unleashed. Hudson and Goliath killed every soldier in Cullen's keep. The next night, Kenneth's coronation is held, and he is proclaimed the High King of Scotland. His first act as king is to officially give his brother Malcolm the title Prince Malcolm of Wyvern. His second act is he swears to raise Cullen's son Constantine alongside his son Malshovam, I think I pronounced that correctly, and his brother Duff's son Kenneth. Later, Robert brings his daughter Alicent to see the Gargoyles' wind ceremony. It's their version of a funeral, where they say farewell to those gargoyles who've fallen. We see Veretti and some other gargoyles who fell in the battle. They burn the bodies, and the clan's warrior priestess, Sacrifice, says, "Tonight, the fire claims what our clan could not hold. Tonight, our clan stands vigil until the fire runs its course. For tonight, those we love and miss have at last run theirs. Ashes to ashes, or dust to dust, all is one with the wind." The gargoyles take the ashes, throw them into the wind, and fly with those they lost one last time. Sacrifice says, "Be one with the wind, my sisters, my brothers. Be one with the wind, my clan, and thus be one with all whom the wind has forever carried away from us." It's such a beautiful way of saying goodbye. Some nights later, the future begins to be set. Malcolm informs Hudson that he and Kenneth are looking to build a castle at Wyvern, since it is strategically important. It's the gateway to enter Scotland. He makes it clear to Hudson that he and his brother don't want to displace the gargoyles, but want to offer to have the gargoyles and humans live together, believing it will strengthen their alliance. At the same time, the Archmage approaches Demona, asking her to be his apprentice, and offering her the power to never feel helpless again. Hudson accepts Malcolm's offer, and Demona accepts the Archmage's tutelage. Now, Malcolm and Hudson have a bit of back and forth, where Malcolm wants to give Hudson a name to refer to him by, so he comes up with Mentor, and Hudson agrees to it. However, I will not be calling him that. I'm still going to just be calling him Hudson for the rest of this story. Sometime later, we see Castle Wyvern beginning to be built. And one of the reasons why it's being built so fast is because the humans are doing the construction work during the day, and the gargoyles take over at night. Another thing that's going to help fasten the process here is that Brother Valdez, King Kenneth's architect, discovers an ancient foundation during the construction. He informs Prince Malcolm, and they now plan on building upon these foundations. This is something new that isn't revealed in the show. We won't find out the backstory of how this foundation came to be. It will probably be discussed in the main comic line at some point. However, Brother Valdez theorizes that maybe the gargoyles built it long ago, or maybe they aren't the first humans to have an alliance with them. We then go to Alicent visiting the young gargoyle statue. When the sun sets, they awaken, which initially shocks her as she is witnessing this for the first time. She introduces herself, and this is where her friendship with them begins. Meanwhile, we see Demona's training with the Archmage begin, and Sacrifice trains her sister to become a warrior priestess like her. These two things aren't really that important, but it was worth mentioning. What is important though, is that this acting troupe approaches Hudson and Prince Malcolm. This acting troupe introduces themselves as the Lightbringers. The man who leads this group introduces himself as Player King, and the woman with him as Player Queen. He introduces the rest of the group. Now, this acting troupe is the Illuminati, and here's what's cool about the Illuminati in the Gargoyles universe. Going on a quick tangent here. They were founded by Sir Percival, one of King Arthur's Knights of the Round Table. Yeah, King Arthur exists in the Gargoyles universe. In the modern age, Sir Percival goes by the name Duval. He created the Illuminati to, quote, make things right after King Arthur's death. WEISMAN revealed in an interview in 2000 that he was one of the 8 survivors of the Arthurian legend in the Gargoyles universe. Now, this is where the dragon finally comes into play. The next night, as the humans and gargoyles are working together building Wyvern Castle, the young gargoyles take Allison flying. They come across this big dark cave, and instead of not entering it, their adolescent curiosity gets the better of them, so they decide to find out where it leads. They find an ancient threshold built into the cave's natural arch, decorated with ancient glyphs, but neither Allison nor the gargoyles can read them. They go even further into the cave, going deeper underground until they find a chamber littered with gold and a giant dragon sleeping atop the piles of gold. Antiope has Allison hide, and at that moment, the dragon awakens. The dragon asks who awakened him, and the young gargoyles introduce themselves as the gargoyles of the Wyvern clan. That's when the dragon reveals he's the one they're named after. He tells them that he is Wyvern, and is the one who brought their ancestors here to Wyvern Hill to protect his lands, his treasure, and his rest. When young Broadway asks, protected from who, Wyvern answers, the human vermin, of course. So this initial purpose of the gargoyles has been forgotten, because no gargoyles today know of this purpose or of him. Young Lexington tells Wyvern about the alliance Hudson made with the humans. Wyvern becomes enraged when he hears this because humans are on his lands, and it won't be long before they come for his treasure. The young gargoyles do their best to try to de-escalate the situation and calm him down by saying no one knows about him and his treasure, but none of it works. Wyvern makes it clear that he thinks humans are nothing but a plague on his kind, gargoyles, and the world for that matter. At that moment, he sniffs out Allison and mentions feeling hungry. Antiope yells at her to run. They all run for their freaking lives, and as they run, they wonder, since he's a dragon, can he breathe fire? That question gets answered immediately when Wyvern nearly torches them when they exit out of the chamber. He eventually corners them in the cave, and when Lexington asks if he'll eat them, Wyvern answers no because they're too closely related, which explains why he addresses the gargoyles as cousins. Lexington does his best to threaten Wyvern by saying that if they disappear, people at the castle will realize it. Mentioning the castle was a bad idea, because when Wyvern hears about a castle, he becomes even more enraged at the idea of a human castle on his lands. He bursts through the cave ceiling and immediately flies towards Wyvern Hill. All the gargoyles of the Wyvern clan come face to face with Wyvern himself. Hudson tells him he won't allow him to hurt the humans if that's what he has come to do. Wyvern responds by calling him a fool for defending the humans. Hudson argues that the alliance between gargoyles and humans is working, and human problems eventually become gargoyles' problems. I love that Hudson says this because it echoes his mate Verity. Wyvern replies that humans are the problem, and that it's better to end the alliance now. He unleashes his flames upon the hill. Prince Malcolm tells the Archmage to do something, but he responds that he needs to wait for his chance because he's only going to get one. Now, the gargoyles honestly aren't a threat to Wyvern. As much as I praise their strength and speed, they're doing their best by trying to overwhelm him with their numbers, hitting him from multiple areas with brute force. However, Wyvern straight up tells them he's taking it easy on them, because he's trying not to hurt them. Robert and his men fire arrows at Wyvern, but they break apart on impact. Wyvern gloats to Hudson that his human allies are weak, but while Wyvern is distracted, the Archmage makes his move. He says, Fominis Venite. He calls down a lightning bolt that destroys Wyvern's left eye. Now this does nothing but piss off Wyvern, who responds with a fire blast on the Archmage. Luckily for him, Prince Malcolm tackles him out of the fire path. As that's happening, a cool thing is happening at Wyvern's treasure trove. The first thing is Domona is on a secret mission for the Archmage. Her mission was to grab this golden flute. Not really interesting unless you've seen the show. What is interesting is player King and Queen are also here, and have come for and successfully found King Arthur's sword, Excalibur. How it came into Wyvern's possession is never explained. Now returning to the battlefield, Wyvern instantly senses that treasure from his trove has been taken. He curses Hudson and the Gargoyles for distracting him and flies away, heading back to his treasure. But not before warning Hudson that in time, his alliance with the humans will end badly. Allison and the young Gargoyles return home unharmed. After everything, Prince Malcolm thanks Hudson for everything and tells him he is grateful for him and the Gargoyles. Hudson responds that this night has proven their alliance is the right thing. The construction of Wyvern Castle continues, Damona's tutelage with the Archmage continues, the bond between Gargoyles and humans grows strong along with their alliance. And that is pretty much the end of the prequel series. You could go into the show right from here. Now, admittedly, there are some plot threads that are left unanswered, like what happened to the dragon, what happened to the golden flute and the sword Excalibur, and why isn't Robert's daughter Allison and Antiope in the Gargoyle show? Really, I think these are all questions that are going to be answered in the main comic line. I'm not sure if some of them get answered in the show, I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, that's really the end of Gargoyles, The Dark Ages. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'm still unsure if I'll cover the main comic series. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Other than that, have an awesome day, and always remember every day to go beyond.